Advertising is not just about the economy overall. It's trying to figure out where things are going with the economy, with the ad industry, and getting there before the headlines catch up.
Every week, billions of dollars move across media platforms, quietly shaping what we see, what we're buying, and which businesses are winning or losing.
But a lot of the times, that signal is buried deep within the data, and it requires going in, pulling it out, and trying to figure out where the market is headed.
That is what Media Monitor is all about. Making sense of those shifts that are shaping advertising, media, and consumer behavior using real data, not guesswork.
Every episode, we're going to break down what's happening in the market. We're going to see what has happened, why it's happened, and ultimately what it matters for brands, advertisers, publishers, and figuring out where things are going.
Sometimes we're going to go deep into the numbers. Sometimes Sean and I are going to react to the news. And sometimes we're going to try to predict what's coming next.
But it's always going to be the same. We're always going to be reducing uncertainty and trying to make people, you, make smarter decisions about today and tomorrow.
So if you work in media, marketing, or advertising, or you simply want to understand how the industry works behind the scenes,
then this show, totally for you.
This is Media Monitor, powered by Guideline. All right, Sean, good to see you. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
I'm pretty good. You know, we are officially over halfway through January, and it feels like this year is off to a fast and furious start, and I'm already kind of looking forward to Feb.
Yeah. Long month, 16 days in. So I have a bit of a riddle for you.
Okay.
If I say AI, fembot, and vodka, what comes to mind?
So, two things, actually. And I think
Okay.
if you had asked me this question 1 week ago, I would have said Austin Powers without
Obviously.
thinking.
Sure.
But right now, it's the 2016 trend. And
The 2016. Okay.
if you're not in the loop on this, everybody on social media is doing throwbacks to 2016 because it's officially been 10 years since what was seen as a simpler time in social media when people were using Snapchat filters and filters galore. And I think for a lot of people who were using social media at that time, predominantly in Instagram or Snapchat, they have come of age. And they're looking back at this carefree self. And for me, maybe there was a little more vodka at that time.
Fair enough. I will be honest with you. If you told me that Snapchat filters were popular 10 years ago, in my head, that's 2 years ago in terms of like my internal clock timing. So yeah, wasn't prepared to field old. Thank you. But also, that's not where my head went to in terms of my riddle. What I wanted to talk about was Svedka Vodka in the Super Bowl. So,
Wow.
they came out and they have, I feel like it's a perfect thing for us to talk about because they're using AI. They've got some kind of very interesting throwback fembot as their icon. They are advertising for this for the first time in the Super Bowl. So it's this new logo kind of popping up. It's the Super Bowl, so it's topical. Everybody likes to talk about advertising. It's kind of this wild confluence of things that kind of all come together. It's just a single article about like what they're doing. And clearly Sazerac is placing a huge bet on driving vodka sales for Svedka coming out of this. So for me, that's what I wanted to talk about. Super Bowl, Svedka, vodka, all of that.
I love it. And actually, it's funny because, and I mention this every week, I think, I am in San Francisco.
I've heard.
Where the Super Bowl will be this year. We've got a shot, those 49ers, we've got a shot. So I'm curious, though, with respect to this ad, because I also have been thinking about, what are we going to see in these ads? And every year there are themes that emerge. And what I have read, and I'm curious if this ad kind of rolls up to it, is that AI, you already mentioned, there's going to be AI. There's a little bit of a nod to this kind of nostalgia play, kind of what I was alluding to with the 2016 trend, creator culture, using influencers a little bit more. So do all those things kind of pop up?
Yeah, I mean, that's to me, it's this kind of wild. They're checking all of the boxes, which to me is like fascinating. It's like from a ad spend or an advertising perspective, is that going to drive the needle, right? Because I feel like the transition over the last couple of years has been largely this like celebrity push. That like if you're going to do a Super Bowl ad, it's going to be some sort of celebrity. That's the hook.
McConaughey has to be there, basically.
Yeah, and so it's like it was novel when it kind of first was introduced, but then there was also some kind of like unique or kooky commercials that weren't celebrity driven. But I feel like at least last year, right, you see a lot of that in terms of celebrity. If you take celebrity and then kind of just shift it to influencer, right, trying to appeal to a younger generation, bring it in, right, I think you're spot on in terms of seeing a lot more of that. I am curious to see which companies are going to lean into the AI piece and say, yeah, like we have AI, we used AI, versus which companies are hard passes on it. And then kind of the third bucket of maybe they used a little bit of AI but aren't going to talk about it. Svedka has been very unabashed in saying AI is helping us out here. It's kind of a big kind of pillar of what we're doing with this ad. And so it's interesting that they're leaning into that at a time where not all brands are doing that.
And they used AI to create an ad about a robot?
In terms of what I had read was that kind of like some of the animation, maybe not necessarily the robot, but some of the animation that will appear in the creative was assisted by AI. I don't know exactly what that means, but that's, according to Sarah, Saunders, who's the CMO there, was like fairly open-ended, but still kind of explicitly saying, yeah, we used AI as part of our process here.
So, and I'm sure you have stats on this, where does Svedka stack up in terms of vodka brands?
Yeah. So, 24, 25, they were let's call it the fourth-ish largest U.S. brand in terms of sales in the U.S. But the vodka category overall has fallen off. It was doing really well for a while. Tito's was kind of really driving a lot of that growth. But, last year, the collective category saw a decline. Svedka alone was down about 6% on cases. And again, that's not necessarily just for Svedka. So it's interesting that they're kind of like doubling down on this space and kind of hoping to kind of bring it back. But I was curious because, when you think about in today's day and age in advertising, a lot of people say like, well, what am I getting for my money? I want to kind of see that ROAS. Right? There's a lot of pressures on publishers to deliver that. Yeah.
Hold on.
I'm holding.
ROAS.
Return on ad spend. It's fair.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of advertisers are saying like, what am I getting for my money here? And if we think unit rates across the NFL regular season this year have been up, at least in our data, 8 to 10% on average. So if you kind of just back of the napkin, you're probably then looking at like $8 million for a 30-second spot, maybe $9 million for a 30-second spot coming into the Super Bowl based on just kind of rough trajectory, which is a wild amount of money to spend. If we take what Svedka retails today, which is like $12 for like a liter for like that 750 ml bottle, they'd probably have to sell about 1.5 million liters more of vodka this year in order to kind of close that gap and see a return on their investment, which is a bananas amount of vodka. And so for me, it's like the Super Bowl is less about driving some sort of like return on ad spend. It's more about the feeling. It's like a vibe kind of thing where if you have to ask how much it is, then you can't afford it. And it's about making it. And I feel like that's kind of the play here is it's a status play, right? It's like we are big enough and meaningfully enough to be in like the number one ad forum in the entire year, which is the Super Bowl. So I feel like, yeah, you could kind of think through the ROAS effect. How much vodka will they sell more? But it's also kind of a statement, right? It's like now that Sazerac owns them, I think it's coming out and saying like, look, we believe in this brand. This brand is a big deal for us. You should like it too.
And so that's a lot of vodka, number one.
It's an insane amount of vodka.
Especially at a time when drinking in general, drinking alcoholic beverages is
on the decline. Yeah.
It's on the decline. So, why are we doing this? Why do you think that they're making this bet? What's your thought?
Yeah, right. I think part of it is the statement. It's the, we're turning this thing around. Svedka has had really low ad spend overall the last couple of years. So kind of coming out first of the year with a big splash saying basically, I have no idea what their ad budgets are, but it wouldn't be a shock to me if like in prior years, this was maybe their entire year's worth of ad spend on a single kind of big bet. But I feel like that's the vibe of the Super Bowl, right? It's like you're at the roulette table all on black and you roll the dice. I feel like that's a lot of what it is in terms of vibes and feels. So I think it's about them placing a bet and saying, we're gonna push all out to kind of return this thing to growth. We've got this 1 year. We're going to start off with the Super Bowl and make a big deal out of it. And then, who knows what then 2027 looks like if this doesn't work out. But I feel like that's kind of the point of the Super Bowl.
Well, what about the social activation piece of it, right? So I'm got some details on this now. They're bringing in Victoria Justice, who came into fame in the early 2000s. She was on a Nickelodeon show, and she's going to basically kick off a dance competition, right? Do the robot. And she wants people to engage. Do you think that, the activation in a Super Bowl ad across social media makes this campaign juicier?
Yeah, I would say less juicy and maybe more diversified, right? It's kind of silly for any advertiser today to kind of do a single launch on a single channel, right? It's all about media mix. It's all about driving that return. And already, right, like we're talking about this, a couple weeks out from the Super Bowl. You fast forward, right? It's going to be talked about on other social media handles. So they're going to get this organic reach naturally. So I kind of exaggerated a little bit with like that. They've got to bring back that like $8-9 million worth of ad spend, because part of it is also that organic reach. It's the conversations. It's now appearing in articles. It's the social media kind of surround that's going to kind of be pre and post launch. That is all going to help it in terms of kind of making things interesting and salient. So I think it all does help. It's an interesting play because to your point and what you said earlier too is like they're also doing the lean into nostalgia, which I think was kind of hot for a while. It's curious to see that like nostalgia has shifted. So like if you think back to the launch of Stranger Things, basically that like early, mid 80s, early 90s was what was really hot and popular in terms of TV series, etc. And it was also around the same time that like older millennials were like aging into adulthood. You fast forward almost 10 years, that same kind of time frame and that same demographic is now kind of more like older Gen Zers who have more of a nostalgia for like the mid-aughts, late 2000s. And so that's clearly the play here, right? It's like bringing you back to your glory days.
Yeah. Well, and another interesting note, because we're talking about, liquor sales being on the decline, I'm seeing there were no liquor ads last year. But the thing, I don't know how you felt about this, but I felt like there was a lot of kind of like lookalike ads, a lot of, you're either, and when I say liquor, I don't mean beer, because there was obviously beer, but, it was like these same types of companies coming in, running these same types of ads. So, maybe we'll see a couple other surprises this year.
For sure. Yeah, it's always exciting, especially because it's the kind of the few that you know about. They kind of do the pre-launch. Maybe they upload it to YouTube so you could watch it early. And then there's always that one or two that like lands for the first time. You're seeing it during the Super Bowl. And then it's always fascinating to see which ones actually create buzz. Or in today's world, right, which ones create memes. I feel like is more appropriate for like the success is like how many memes come out of a single ad is really kind of the measure of success in terms of how I view whether or not it's getting into the cultural zeitgeist.
Exactly. Well, I, for one, am very excited, not only because it's on my home turf, but I think we're going to see some new stuff this year. Maybe a couple other controlled substances will emerge. If I had to make a prediction, I think there's probably a space for cannabis. There's certainly a space for betting of all kinds. And I think we're going to see some folks really push the envelope this year. I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, should be great.
Well, that's all I had for you today, Sean.
Terrific. Yeah, it was fun catching up, talking about the Super Bowl, fembots, AI, and vodka. Those are very rarely things that get uttered in a single sentence. So it was excited to loop them all in and throw out a few stats about revenue and ad costs.
I love it. Any Friday that I get to talk about vodka robots and the like, I'm in for it. So
what a
always
win.
a pleasure.
Yeah. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Sean.
Bye.
All right, Sean, that wraps up this episode of Media Monitor.
Terrific. And if you found today's conversation really helpful, tune back next week because we will be delivering insights weekly.
And you can always explore the data behind these discussions at guideline.ai.
Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on Media Monitor.